Hi guys, for my video today, I'm going to be going into simplifying logarithms. And the way to start that, just like with the exponential functions or the rules of exponents, is to memorize the laws of logarithms. Okay, and as you can see, the way that it works, as I mentioned in my earlier video, or in the video basics of logs versus exponents, you can see that it is log base of a function, right? And in this case, the b in green is the base of the logarithm. And the m and the n represent different parts of the function in the argument of the logarithm. The argument is the part that the logarithm is of inside the parentheses. And just like with the exponential rules, or the rules of exponential functions, the m and the n both represent the same things in any given function, in the same way as the b does. So for example, for the first rule, if m is 7 and n is x, then you could transform log b 7x into log b of 7 plus log b of x. In the same way, you can use all of these functions. I'll show you some examples, but first let's go over what exactly logarithm simplification means. Alright, so in other words, simplify means to move from something that looks like this into something that looks like this. You get rid of the products, the quotients, and the powers as it applies to the function. In other words, you spread it out. You put it in longer form, making sure that there are no quotients, products, or powers in the argument inside the parentheses of the logarithmic function. Now we'll do a couple of examples for that, starting with the simple ones and moving on to the more complicated. Okay, these are our simple problems to start out with. And in these ones, you'll see how the rules can apply to simple equations. As you'll see in the later ones, 3 and 4, the rules apply the same way in more complicated functions, but these are just the basics. Let's start with 1. Okay, so as you can see, the first thing you want to do is you want to take apart the quotient from the top and the bottom. And as you can see with the tiny rules up here, just to remind you, you can go back and copy your screen cap, the one I wrote it bigger. When you take the top, you take the log of the top and subtract from it the log of the bottom, giving you log x minus 1 to the third power minus log of x. And then we apply rule 3, where the function that's up top here as 3 comes down in front of only the part of the logarithm that deals with, giving you your final answer of 3 log of x minus 1 minus log of x. The important thing that I've seen a lot of mistakes made is that people keep the log in front and just do everything on the inside. But you have to remember that you have to distribute that log and keep that same log in each part. Now, let's do a natural logarithm down here. Alright, so the first step in this one is to take rule 3 and get that 2 down in front of the whole logarithmic equation, the natural logarithm. And then, in the next one, we apply rule 1 and take apart the 2 products of the inside of the first logarithm. Note that the 2 here moves on to be in front of both parts that you separated into. And the last thing is note for rule 5 is that remember that a natural logarithm, an ln, is basically a log base e. So therefore, this part right here is log base e of e, and therefore it cancels out, or it becomes 1, giving you the final answer of 2 ln of x plus 4 plus 2. So as you can see, it's not that hard. What we're going to do is do some problems that look a little bit more complicated. However, they work just as simply. Okay, so in this one you can see it looks a little bit more complicated. It's log base 3, and there are several parts on the inside there. But I'm going to show you, it works the exact same way and it's just as simple. You just have to worry about piece by piece. Okay. So again, there are a few things to note with this. The first is that there are 3 separate products that you can take out. So you split that, keeping the log 3 in front, into 3 minus x squared, and log 3 of x times x to the third plus 4, all to the 1/2. You'll notice that in this step, I factored out 1x from this function on the inside here. Now, with rule 5, remember it's log b of b is 1, so log 3 of 3 is also 1. And then the rest of it stays the same. Then, you apply rule 3 and take the exponent down in front of each part. So the 2 goes here, and the 1/2 goes here. For the last step, you apply rule 1 again. Noting, of course, that the 1/2 that is in front of this whole function here stays in front of each of the parts that you break it into. Now we're going to do one more. And this one is a bit more complicated, but I promise you that it only is complicated in the way that it looks. Now this one combines a lot of rules, and I'll show you each step to get through it and which law of logarithms applies. And as you'll see, it works out just as simply. Alright, so again, there are just a few steps. Well, you know, more than a few, but they work just the same way. So the first thing you want to do is take this 2 and get it down in front of the whole thing. And that 2 will follow all the other pieces of the function around throughout it. The next thing you want to do is deal with the quotient by taking the log of the top, and subtracting the log of the bottom. Keeping in mind, of course, that that 2 stays with each of those parts. So, now you have the 2 log of the numerator minus 2 log of the denominator. The next thing you want to do is split up the products within each of those. So we turn it into 2 log 10, 2 log x to the 1/2, but then you have to subtract the entirety of this part, which you break into 2 log 7 and 2 log of x squared minus 10 to the 4th power. You have to keep in mind that you take that negative there, and you distribute it. So it applies to both parts. Then for rule 5, you just note that there's 2 log 10 of 10, which is the normal log, and you cross that out, so it just turns into 2. Everything else stays the same. For rule 3, you'll notice that there are some powers here of the different logarithms. 1/2 and 4. And what's important to note is that those powers come down in front and combine with the constant, or with the function that is already in front of that. So then when you put those together, you get 2 plus log x, because the 1/2 times 2 is just 1, minus 2 log of 7, minus 8, which is 4 times 2, log of x squared minus 10. So thank you for watching this video. Have a good day and stay safe.